Hey, this is Tarzan down at Honda World. Just wanted to do a little more in-depth look at a certain bike. This is the 2019 CB1000R. It's the ABS model. And this is actually my personal bike. I ride it daily. I've had it for about 6 months and I feel I've got some good experiences on it and I'm able to share a little bit of that knowledge with you on this thing. Um, it's Honda's naked sport bike, so it's going to be competing against the Ducati Monster, that Aprilia RSV4, that kind of stuff. Um, this is Honda's take on it, and I think they've done an amazing job. In my opinion, it's probably the best looking bike that Honda makes at the moment. I love the they call it neo retro. It's kind of a homage to the way the old CBs look. And if you compare it back to like those CB750s, it really pays homage to those bikes. It looks excellent. They really captured the history as well as making it look modern and just super sleek and elegant. I love the LED headlight. It's got LED lighting all around. And this red, you could just fall into this red. It's a very deep, beautiful looking red. There's times where I'll just sit back and look at the bike. So it is Honda's 998cc inline four. It's actually derived from the previous generation of the CB1000 or the CBR1000R rather. I believe it's the 2005. So it's got a ton of low end torque, but you're also getting a lot of top end horsepower. It'll redline at about 11,500. So there's really a lot that this bike will give you up top. It's not just a down low bike. It's really good all around. Where I find it shines is on my daily commute. I ride this thing about 10, 15 miles every day, and at about between 35 and 45 miles an hour, the roll-on is just incredible on this. I can look at a spot ahead of me, and if I just twist the throttle, I'm there. It really is a sight to see. The acceleration on this bike is just incredible. It's actually quicker from 0 to 80 than the CBR1000RR. So this bike accelerates very quickly. You've definitely got to keep an eye on that speed if you're on the throttle. It's a very modern setup. It's got this awesome digital display up here. You've got a gear indicator. Let's see how well that comes through on camera, but you get a gear indicator. You've got your RPMs here around that gear indicator. It'll give you miles per gallon. You've also got, which is really cool, different power modes on this bike. So you see you've got these three little logos, T, EB, and P. So T is for Honda's torque control, and that's essentially it's wheel spin control as well as a wheelie control built into one. So you get three levels of that, one being the least intrusive, and three being the most intrusive. So if you've got it in three, if you dump that clutch, the bike will actually modulate that throttle, so you won't get any front wheel picked up and you won't get any wheel spin in the rear. But you also have the option of turning that off completely with this little torque control button over here on the left hand side. It's really easy to do in user mode, which helps me get into that as well. You get 4 different power modes on this bike. There's user mode, which is where I keep my bike most of the time. I keep it in full power. 2 engine braking, that's what that EB stands for. You can actually adjust the amount of engine braking you can do on this bike. And then 1 on torque control. I like to have all the play I can get with the rear wheel. The other modes are sport mode, which is Honda's full power mode. It's going to give you all the power and then minimal engine braking and minimal torque. I actually use this mode a lot while I'm riding on the freeway, just because I don't want to have to fight the engine braking while I'm cruising at higher speeds at like 65, 75 miles an hour. This can be all switched on the fly, by the way, as you're riding. All you've got to do is hit this select switch and then close the throttle. And as soon as you do that, it'll instantly switch to the mode that you've put the bike in. Next, you've got standard mode. That's going to give you 2 out of 3 on everything. It's really great around town. It makes that throttle really smooth. And then finally, the rain mode. You've got the minimal amount of power as well as full torque and 2 out of 3 on engine braking. I actually use that anytime it's wet out. You really get absolutely no wheel spin off the line. Even in pretty heavy rain. I've ridden this bike through a few rainstorms and I had absolutely no issues with wheel spin. That torque control system handles that stuff really well. The main reason I bought this bike, I'm a sport bike guy at heart. I've owned a few CBR 600s. I've owned a lot of 600 class sport bikes, and I love that feeling of working up the power and getting a lot of top end grunt. But I was wanting more comfort, so that's really what drew me to this bike. It's got all the performance I could ever want, but it's actually super comfortable. I mean, let me take a sit on this bike. I'm 6'1". It's a little bit of a tall bike, but I can flat foot it pretty easily. But the ergonomics are just perfect for me for daily riding. I don't get any back pain on this bike. As you can see, I'm pretty upright. It's super comfortable. I've done about a 3-hour ride on this thing up the canyons and back, and I felt fine afterwards. Whereas on my super sports, my wrists would definitely be feeling it, and my back would be aching quite a bit. But this one, I don't get any of that stuff, although I do have a little more wind buffeting. But I've done a lot of freeway miles on this bike, and it does really well on the freeway. You don't get a lot of wind buffeting until you're going over about 80 miles an hour. That's when you really start to feel it. But Honda did a great job. I mean, this tank right here blocks the majority of the wind that's coming at you from the front. And because it's a 1000, it feels very planted. It doesn't get blown around by the wind at all. Just a really stout bike. Excellent for commuting. Really, it's a good all-around bike. That's what Honda had in mind when they designed this thing. And it's just a stunning bike, too. You've got some really high-end features on this thing, like that beautiful painted tank, as well as the single-sided swing arm. That's something that not a lot of bikes have, and it's the only bike in Honda's lineup right now that has a single-sided swing arm. And then that brings into play some of the modifications I've made. I have a full Akrapovic exhaust system on here. It's the first thing I did. I wanted a little bit more noise, and I'll start it up and demonstrate that for you so you can hear what this bike sounds like with that exhaust on there. It's a really low and deep growl. It's unlike any other bike that I've heard, really. I love it. It's definitely worth it to me. Like I said, this is my personal bike that I ride every day, so there was a few things that I've done to it. Let's see here. If you're looking for just a great all-around bike and you don't really want to compromise on performance or comfort, this is really the bike for you. And it's going to turn heads. I get compliments everywhere I go on this machine. A lot of people think it's some kind of exotic Italian bike until they walk up and see the Honda badge, and they're really surprised. I think Honda knocked this one out of the park. I absolutely love it. If you guys want more information, visit Honda's website. It's the CB1000R, or come on down to Honda World and talk to me. I own this bike, and I like to think I know a bit about it. So come on down and talk to me. Once again, I'm Tarzan. It's been awesome talking to you, and have a nice day.